Now, I'm going to jump right in and say that the overturning of Roe versus Wade is going to be very disastrous for autistic people. Whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, you can't deny the precedent it has set in United States politics. Now, let me start with two things. First of all, the overturning sets the precedent for women's bodies to be controlled by the state. Now, whether or not you think that is worth preventing abortions is up to you, but nonetheless, the state is now having power, or at least the states now have much more power over women's bodies. This is worth noting because if you get too authoritarian around here, you get stuff like eugenics and even more ABA. Yay. The bigger part of this, however, I think is the fact that they are overturning a constitutional agreement, a constitutional right. Now, it's not part of the Constitution itself, but Roe versus Wade is a constitutional decision. It's an interpretation of the Constitution. But now that it's changed so easily, this is going to make the current laws and institutions, and especially new laws and institutions, a lot more malleable. And when there's malleabilities, corporations are going to exploit it. And corporations especially support autism awareness and its tenets, such as ABA and eugenics. Another consequence people may not consider is that this erodes civic nationalism. If you erode the political system, you erode the ideology that believes in it, paving the way for much worse ideologies. Now, let's be fair here. Autistic people believe in the Constitution about as much as anyone else in the United States. So, theoretically, autistic people should be treated as part of the nation. But unfortunately, autistic people are dehumanized even in civic nations, nations that don't regard race, language, or religion, but the actual country itself. But if civic liberal nations treat us so poorly, imagine what non-civic nationalists would do. By virtue of either lacking morality or replacing morality with racism, such ideologies will be prone to autism awareness. Now, I wouldn't say I'm against change in general, but change under neoliberalism is generally the worst. This is not to say that you shouldn't participate in political systems, but at this point, political systems are becoming unreliable as a means of defense. Although this was partially already true beforehand. When the FDA tried to shut down the JRC prevailed, and the Supreme Court overturned the ban on electroshock therapy quote-unquote, anyway. The Supreme Court literally made it legal to kill autistic people, albeit under very specific circumstances, but that's still not okay. And it shows the extent to which they discriminate against autistic people. Even if the political system was better, we'd still have these people who will just ruin it as much as they can, and threaten our existence. So how do we deal with this? Well, it's kind of simple actually. Stop relying on liberal politics as your praxis. Now, revolution through democracy has always been too good to be true. But that's even more true now than it was before. Do go out and vote, but also exercise your gun rights. It's gonna be a lot harder for the state to take away our genitals if autistic people have guns. Also, it would now be a very good time for countries like Korea, Japan, Canada, Mexico, and most of Europe to militarize. First of all, it would give a much better balance of powers in the West, especially. And moreover, if things get worse in the United States, it at least won't spread to other nations, as the world is less dependent on the United States military. As a matter of fact, this arrangement would mean that superpowers in general will have less power over smaller nations. So this would help autistic people, but not just autistic people. This is Autistic signing out.